Where have you been hiding? Hello, my friend. This is Darice, Alive with Joy, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming Aquarius full moon. And I feel like that's the theme of this particular full moon, that it will shine a light on where we have been hiding, where we have not been allowing ourselves to be our full selves. And I'll probably be looking at my notes from time to time. So that's what's happening if I look off to the side here. It's an interesting full moon, um, and it could be a difficult one. It feels like I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was telling coworkers about how I ran the LA Marathon about 20 years ago or so. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was around that time. It was a long time ago. I haven't really been running since then, but it was a great experience. It was a once in a lifetime experience, and I'm glad I got it off the bucket list. And I feel like maybe we need to tap into that marathon energy here. Because this full moon, it could feel like where you hit that wall. When I was training for the marathon, I got to the point where I was in good enough physical shape where I really enjoyed running for like 13 to 19 miles. Like that was my sweet spot. That was when the endorphins would kick in for me at like mile 13, mile 14. And it was the most incredible thing. So I totally understand why people are addicted to running. That runner's high, one of the best things I've ever felt in my entire life. And just to feel my body like in flow and everything working on all cylinders and I'd gotten to the point where like it was usually at that point where I had um run enough where like I wasn't feeling any cramping or tension. Like sometimes if you run enough, like the cramps like dissolve, the body relaxes. I mean, I'm not saying to like push yourself beyond pain. If you are running or doing anything physical or exercise like that, like you got to know your body and what your body's limits are. But I had trained enough where I got to the point where I knew there were certain like types of tension or cramps I could run through, and I knew when I needed to stop and just walk for longer or that kind of thing. Um, and I feel like this full moon, it's kind of got that vibe. Like you kind of know where you need to stop, and you also kind of know where you need to keep pushing, where you need to go. This could be a full moon where there are a lot of harsh truths revealed. I should actually give you the exact dates here. So it was going to be Aquarius full moon on July 29, 2026, 10:35 a.m. Eastern. And it's going to be at 60 degrees, 30 arc minutes. Um, and we still have our Jupiter Pluto opposition at 6 degrees. Jupiter, planet of abundance, expansion. Pluto, the death, rebirth, death planet. They're in an opposition. They're coming off the most tense and part of it, but it's still there. It's still present. And for me, this Pluto Jupiter opposition, it's felt like where am I having a struggle with being my full self, shining authentically? That Pluto in that opposition is asking me to release what's keeping me from being my full self. Um, and the Jupiter, though, is also saying, hey, be aware of the impact it can have. Like, are you ready to deal with the consequences of being your full self? Are you willing to release the relationships or the spaces that aren't ready to receive you fully? I feel like that opposition is asking us to just acknowledge both sides of that. We also have this moon sextiling Neptune, so which that's sort of a supportive aspect in terms of following the vision, the desire, what our soul is calling us for. Um, but we also still have that Mercury Saturn square, which has been like active the last half of July. And for me, because Saturn rules the body, the bones. So I've been having some issues with my knees and my joints. That's how that square has personally played out for me. And I have been moving through it. But I feel like it's also been asking me to be in touch with how I want to communicate around my feelings. I feel like that's the emotional aspect of some of the joint things I've been having with my knees in that Mercury Saturn square. Um, and we also still have Uranus and Gemini trining Pluto and Aquarius. It hit that exact opposition on July 18th, but we're still definitely feeling it. And so what breakthroughs have you had around communication or your daily routines, your daily habits as well? This full moon can be highlighting that as well. Part of that is because of my own knee issues. I've been really grappling with how I eat, how I nourish myself, drinking enough water. I definitely notice when I'm not consuming enough water, I definitely have more issues, more stiffness, that kind of thing. It could be something as simple as that. But it could also be showing you where are you lacking faith in yourself? I feel like Jupiter and Leo, this whole year that we're going through that transit, Jupiter and Leo is inviting us to really have faith in ourselves and our ability to shine in the world. And what is holding you back from doing that? This full moon, I think, is asking you to really look at where have you been playing small and why have you been playing small? And I say all of that too because this is coming on the heels of Saturn stationing retrograde. So Saturn goes retrograde for about 5 to 6 months every year. And when it's in its retrograde, I feel like often the retrograde is asking us about how are we using our time, since Saturn is the timekeeper, the taskmaster. It's about our foundation, our work in the world. Often, I feel like Saturn retrogrades really ask us to re-examine how we are showing up in our work and in our responsibilities, at that time. And it's an invitation to look at how you can do it differently, how you can do it in a way that's more sustainable long term. How can you do it in a way where you're strengthening your foundations for your life, the foundations underneath your responsibilities? Saturn retrogrades also ask us to question what we are committing to. Do we want to still be responsible for these things? And maybe if you decided that you no longer want to stay responsible for that particular job, that particular project, or maybe that particular relationship, you usually can't just leave. You usually have to have a transition period. You usually have to have a way to responsibly complete that relationship, that responsibility. So that could be coming up around this full moon. It could be asking you to look at that and to really sit with, if this is something you want to ultimately release from your life, how do you want to release it? How do you want to move forward from it? How do you want to come away from it? And also, this full moon is really pivotal because it happened also the same day on July 26th that we have as soon as we have Saturn station direct, we also have the nodes of fate switch signs. So this full moon comes literally a few days right after that. So the North Node moved into Aquarius and the South Node moved into Leo, officially kicking off a whole new eclipse series. So the next few eclipse series, most of them are going to be in Leo or Aquarius. We have our final one in Virgo, which will be in August. So this full moon officially kicks off eclipse season. So that's a lot of change. The nodes of fate changing sign says we're going to be looking at a new way of working with our soul's purpose, the North Node. How do we show up? How do we move towards our desire? Eclipses, they show us where we're on track in terms of our soul's progress and where we're off track, what needs to be changed, what needs to be adjusted. So not only does this full moon, I feel like it amplifies that we are entering a new 18-month cycle since it's happening a few days after the nodes change signs. And it's happening right as Saturn stations direct. And it's coming off of the Barbeau's basket that many people were talking about in July. We're still feeling some of that. It's breaking apart a little bit, but we'll be feeling it towards the end of July. It just feels like there's been a lot of change in the air. And that's why I felt like the marathon analogy was really good because to train for a marathon, it takes time. You have to really commit to it and you have to do it step by step, week by week. And you just have to keep going. And at the beginning, I was talking about when I had that sweet spot when I was running in between miles 13 and 19. But a marathon is 26.2 miles. And that was always the hardest part for me, pushing through to the end. And I never did it gracefully during my training and not during the actual marathon itself. And that was often usually where I ended like walking. I just gave up running completely. By like mile 21, 22, like that was me. But I made it. I got through the end of it. I did it in training and I got through the actual marathon itself. So it didn't matter that I maybe didn't do it in the best form and I wasn't able to continue running the entire time, but I got through to the end. And I feel like this full moon, it could have that vibe. Like you may have to push through something and you may not do it in a way that looks as graceful or as fun as you want, but you can get through it. It's showing you what needs to be completed. And it'll be interesting too to see what happens in the collective, what changes in terms of leadership. Like we may see some leaders experience some come home to Jesus moments around things that have been happening. I wouldn't be surprised if there's new levels of stuff around the e-files, either around this full moon or during actual eclipse season in August. Um, I feel like we need to keep training and preparing ourselves for bigger changes, transformations, individually and collectively. And it feels to me like this Aquarius full moon is a flashpoint. It's a preview of the eclipses in August and the eclipse series overall, in particular, over these next 18 months. And this is also a good time to be looking at what has come to fruition from you from the past 6 months. Full moons are culminations from the new moon 6 months prior. So, what is coming to completion or harvest for you? And is it something you still want to maintain or cultivate, or is it something you want to release? This full moon feels to me like it's going to have a lot of questions, and the answers may not unfold for the next few months because we're going to be moving from since like I said, this is eclipse season is opening, and then we're going to have another eclipse season 6 months from now. So that'll be interesting to see what happens as well during this time. And you could also be sitting with or meditating on what do you want the next 18 months, this next eclipse series, to look like? What do you want to experience in your life? What is the vision you have for your life? Or if you don't have a vision for your life, what kind of questions do you want to guide that exploration? I would suggest, am I worthy of being happy? I just had a conversation with someone about that, and you'll probably be seeing that interview in a couple of weeks from now. But that was one of the main takeaways I took from that. Have we been giving ourselves permission to ask, am I worthy of being happy? That's what's required in these days. We have a lot of big problems to solve. And the first step is to give yourself permission to be happy. Because I have found that when you give yourself permission to experience just true innate joy, you can calm down enough to find solutions to problems in your life and then also things that can ultimately lead to solving some of the issues in the collective. I really don't believe it's the other way around. I feel like we've often been taught that it has to be the other way around, that through skills and talents that we find our joy. But sometimes it's okay just to actually feel good, just to feel good for good's sake, just for being alive, breathing, being in the moment, being in the flow, being present, enjoying simple pleasures like taking a walk, drinking clean water, eating healthy, nutritious food. Doing the things that show yourself and your body that you love yourself, spending quality time with close friends and loved ones. Do those things. This full moon, it'll be good to exercise those self care, those self nurturing routines and exercises. And because it's a full moon in Aquarius, which can be very mental, looking at the big systems, the overall picture, the larger vision. You could also take the time to maybe journal on that as well. Where do you want your life to uh, reveal how you want to show up in the larger collective, for example? You could take time to meditate on that as well. And just, maybe do a breathing meditation or some breath work since it is an air sign. So this could be a good opportunity as well if you're looking for something to do around that full moon or as part of a full moon ritual. Maybe just a simple breathwork exercise could be something you do. Excuse me. Trying to see if there's anything else I'm looking at. Yeah, I just feel like there's an intensity around what's not working in our lives with this Aquarius full moon. And I feel like that voice of the universe is just going to get louder because we need people aligned with their true desires, their true soul's purpose. Because we need you to live from your magic and your genius. And this is what this full moon is inviting you to do. So I hope this was helpful. If you received value out of this, please do like the video. Please do share the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I hope you look forward to some of my joy talks, my interviews I have coming up in August as well. And I'm also going to put down my links. I am open again for general birth chart astrology readings. They're for an hour, in addition to my astro counseling sessions, where I help you move through things or just see your desires and your potentials for what you desire for yourself. And yeah, and I may have other things as well by the time I put this up. So we'll see, but there'll be links below. And thank you so much for your time and your attention. Thank you if you are returning. Welcome if you're new. I forgot to say that earlier at the beginning of this. And as always, always remember to honor the light within you.